Today I'm sitting at Universal Studios in Los Angeles in the office of certainly the most famous and the most successful film composer of all time. John Williams wrote, just to mention a couple of the things that have become household words, Star Wars, E.T., Close Encounters, Jaws, any number of enormously famous and successful and brilliantly made and fashioned film scores. He's also a good pianist. He's also a very good friend of mine. He's also the conductor of the Boston Pop Symphony. And that's all the credits I'm going to give on you. So here is John Williams. I have to ask you a very basic question. You were very highly musically educated. I mean, you studied piano with Rosina Levine and all this and that. What made you even initially get interested in writing for films?
Well, it was an event in my life. I think it was about 1957, which was a period during which I was studying with Rosina and others. And the event was the birth of a little girl. And the birth of a little girl caused the need to earn some money, which everyone in the audience will understand. I had to go to work.
So it was venal to begin with.
Well, I don't know if it's a word I would use, but
all right, it was financial.
A sudden, urgent necessity.
Yeah, but why films? Why specifically films?
Well, my family was in California, and I've been studying with Rosina in New York, but with other people also out here. And in those years, as you well remember, because you were also, in a sense, a partner in crime in some of these activities, they had in those years contract studio orchestras.
Yeah.
And the real entry-level skill for this kind of thing really could be reduced to, I think, sight reading. And since it was a contract orchestra, it meant a job.
Yeah.
And it meant an income. And it meant this for a piano student was something unheard of. And the orchestra, the film production in Hollywood was such in those days. I mean, they produced these studios. We're sitting in one of them. Produced probably hundreds of films a year. So it meant that the orchestra played every day. And we would come on stage and record something. And I had no idea of composing for films. You asked me the origins of all this, and I sat there at age 24, callow, inexperienced, and largely stupid, playing the piano for Dmitri Tiomkin, or some cases Alfred Newman, and once in a while young Andre Previn, who was then the same age that I. And as I was playing and having a few bars rest, I began to look at the film, and I began to see the conductor over here and think to myself,
I can do this. Yes, that's
not
what
only
you
I
thought.
can do it, but with the temerity of youth again, I can do it better than he can do it.
That's right.
And one thinks that, and I suppose it's a healthy thing. If ambition or if temerity doesn't belong to the young, who does it belong to?
But you're absolutely right, because I started out orchestrating for people at MGM. And I used to see what they would hand me, you know, and for which they got enormous money, power, glory, credit. And I also went home and thought, I can do that a lot better.
Which, of course, you could.
It has nothing to do with whether we could or not. It has to do with thinking we could.
Well, belief in oneself, I suppose.
If I tell you the first movie on which I got credit as a composer, it will allow you to mention anything, no matter how awful it was. Because the first movie I ever got credit on as a composer was something called The Sun Comes Up, which had 2 stars. And in the order of billing, they were Lassie and Jeanette MacDonald. So I'd like to see you top that. What do you mean terrific?
It's good.
There was the barking and Jeanette singing. I never quite knew which was which. What did you... No, that's...
You had a gorgeous animal, that's for one thing.
But in those days, there was no such thing as albums from the movie scores and things, were there? Rarely.
Yes, I think
I mean, I know there was like Ben-Hur, but...
Very important people, which I certainly was not. But if you had Ben-Hur, Miklos Rozsa, some kind of that thing, or you yourself used to conduct, because I even had the honor of being with you, when you were conducting My Fair Lady or Gigi or some of these things, that would be a big soundtrack, very important score.
Yeah, but
by that I mean
score.
an album,
I meant
record
scores, yes.
And I think the advent of long-playing records contributed a lot to this thing. But it also created a problem for us, because the minute records began to become important in underscoring movies, we had now this long-playing record, and you or I could do a score for a Western, which had maybe just nondescript background music, but the studio would like to have a record of it. And the logical next commercial step is going to be, the studio head now says to you, okay, Previn, the next score you write for us has to have a hit song, even though if it's about Gidget on the beach.
Yeah.
We want to, never mind the film, we expect you now to sell records. An added challenge for the composer, an added dimension, an added complication that might even have contributed, depending on your point of view, to the demise of the so-called symphonic
Oh, absolutely,
score.
because it leads me to something that I really wanted to talk to you about, and that is that first there was the title song, which I think hit its zenith once. I saw a lyricist totally dejected one day at the studio, and I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "I have to write the title song for Kiss the Blood Off My Hands." And he wasn't kidding.
No, that's, yeah.
Yeah, it was a song, a little difficult. So there were all these horrible title songs, which then again spawned the thing of getting a big recording star to sing it over the titles, and it made mincemeat of all our scores. Now that lasted for a very long time. It was around the time I decided, the hell with this, and I didn't do it anymore. And you, I think, almost single-handedly revived what I would call the symphony orchestra for the use of movie scores, film scores.